We're going to do history of, actually, there's a idea I want to hit upon, is that, is there any history of the world operating in states of anarchy? And what was life like under those circumstances? And we're going to take this here from Quigley's Strategy and Hope, and we're in where we at here? The Russian Empire to 1917. Make sure, yeah. In the 19th century, most historians regarded Russia as a part of Europe, but it is now becoming increasingly clear that Russia is another civilization quite separate from Western civilization. Both of these civilizations are descended from the classical civilization, but the connection with this predecessor was made so differently that two quite different traditions came into existence. Russian traditions were derived from the Byzantine directly. The Western traditions were derived from a more moderate classical civilization indirectly, having passed through the Dark Ages when there was no state or government in the West. We have Russian civilization was created from three sources originally: the South people, the Viking invaders from the north, the Byzantine tradition from the south. These three were fused together as a result of a common experience arising from Russia's exposed geographical position on the western edge of the great flat land stretching for thousands of miles to the east. This flat land is divided horizontally into three zones, with the most southern is the open plain, while the northern open bush and tundra. The middle zone is forest. The southern zone, or the steppes, contain two parts. The southern, the salty plain, which is practically useless, while the northern part next to the forest is the famous black earth region, rich agricultural soil. Unfortunately, the eastern portion of this great Eurasian plain has been getting steadily drier for thousands of years, with the consequence of that the Ural, Baltic-speaking peoples in Central and East Central Asia, and peoples like the Huns, the Bulgars, the Magyars, Mongols, and Turks have been pushed westward repeatedly along the steep corridor between the Urals and the Caspian Sea, making the black earth steppes dangerous for sedentary agricultural peoples. The South first appeared more than 2,000 years ago as a peaceful, invasive people with an economy based on hunting and rudimentary agriculture. In the forest of East Poland, these people slowly increased in numbers, moving northeastward through the forest mixed with the scattered Finnish hunting people who were there already. About 700 or so of the Northmen, whom we know as the Vikings, came down from the Baltic Sea by the way of the rivers of Eastern Europe and eventually reached the Black Sea and attacked Constantinople. These Northmen were trying to make a way of life out of militarism, seizing booty and slaves, imposing tribute on conquered peoples, collecting furs, honey, and wax from the intended Slavs working in their forest, and exchanging these for the colorful products of the Byzantine South. In the time, the Northmen set up fortified trade posts along the river highways, and notably at Novgorod in the north, at Smolnik at the center, and Kiev in the south. They married the Slav women and imposed on the rudimentary agriculture, hunting economy of the fucking hell, man. I'm sorry. They married the Slav women and imposed on the rudimentary agriculture, hunting economy of the Slavs, a superstructure of tribute collecting state with an exploitive, militaristic, commercial economy. This created a pattern of two-class Russian society, which has continued ever since. Much intensified by the subsequent historical events. In the time of the ruling class, Russia became acquainted with the Byzantine culture. They were dazzled by it. They sought to import upon it into their wilderness domains in the north. In this way, they imposed upon the Slavic people many of the accessories of the Byzantine Empire, such as Orthodox Christianity, the Byzantine alphabet, the Byzantine calendar, and used a domed ecclesiastical architecture in the name of the Tsar Caesar or the ruler, and innumerable other traits. Most important of all, they imported the Byzantine totalitarian. I don't know what the fuck's going on. They imported the Byzantine totalitarian autocracy, under which all aspects of life, including political, economic, intellectual, and religious, were all regarded as departments of government and under control of an autocratic ruler. And isn't that interesting? That every aspect of life, it kind of fucking looks like what we have today in much of the world. Systems where there seems to be a fucking department of fucking government about anything you can imagine. These beliefs were part of the Greek tradition and were based ultimately on the Greek inability to distinguish between state and society. Since society includes all human activities, the Greeks had assumed that the state must include all human activities. In the days of classical Greece, this all-inclusive entity was called the polis, a term which meant both society and state. The only difference was that the polis was sometimes and Jesus Christ, you boys want to fucking play. here. I don't know if I can read that better from the damn book, or is it Pericles is about 450 BC, democratic, while the imperial was always military autocracy. Both were totalitarian. Isn't that just beautiful? So the religion and economic life were regarded as spheres of governmental activity. The totalitarian autocratic tradition was carried on into the Byzantine Empire, and it passed to the Russian state in the north and to the later Ottoman Empire in the south. I know what part of this is. I speak a lot different than he does, and it's kind of hanging me up. In the north, the Byzantine tradition combined with the experience of the Northmen to intensify the two-class structure of the Slav society. The new Slav Orthodox Christians fusion, putting together the Byzantine tradition, the Viking tradition, created Russia. From Byzantine came the autocracy, the idea that state is an absolute power, and as a totalitarian power, it's such important application of these principles as the idea that the state should control thought and religion, that the church should be a branch of government, that the law is an enactment of the state, and the ruler is semi-divine. From the Vikings came the idea that the state is a foreign importation based on militarism, supported by booty and tribute, that the economic innovations are a function of government, that the power rather than law is the basis of societal life in the society with its people and its property, and it is the private property of a foreign ruler. Oh, that's a beautiful idea. All the world are slaves. Two-class system. You got a class of rulers and masters, a class of property and slaves. Oh, the Dark Ages. There was no state or government in the West. Yeah, about the Dark Ages. Is this something that I don't even know if that was something that really happened, or because it's awfully fucking convenient idea to say nothing happened and throw in 1,000 fucking years. Here's 1,000 years where nothing happened. Nothing happened in human history. We were just in the dark. That does not seem fucking possible. 1,000 fucking years. 1,000 years. Nobody did anything. That just... it was just the rulers. They were raping and murdering and plundering. Nobody grew nothing for them to. There was nothing built for the rulers to plunder. Nothing happened. I suppose. I don't know. I wasn't there. The concept of the Russian system must be emphasized because they are so foreign to our own traditions. In the West, the Roman Empire, which continued in the East as the Byzantine Empire, disappeared in the year 476, and although many efforts were made to revive it, there was clearly a period about goo. There was no empire, no state, no public authority. In the West, the state disappeared, yet society continued. So also, religious and economic life continued. This clearly showed that the state and society were not the same thing, that society was a basic entity, that the state was a crowning but not essential cap to the social structure. This experience had revolutionary effects. It was discovered that man could live without a state and became the basis of Western liberalism. It was discovered that the state, if it exists, it must serve man, and that it was incorrect to believe that the purpose of man is to serve the state. It was discovered that economic life, religious life, law, and private property can all exist and function effectively without a state. That is one hell of a claim. Because if you say what about the police? What about the police? Who will keep law and order? People freak the fuck out. And, if you immediately got rid of police, I suspect there would be some people that would press their luck and probably do pretty well to begin with. Then that would be offset. People would realize, well, shit, I need to take this in my own hands. And with the age of technology, Jesus Christ, people are going to get creative. It's all out fuck. That would be a line you would be hard pressed to want fucking cross. Fucking, sensors, drones, automation. You put that in just the average person's hands, that ability, just the ability and the access to technology. I don't think Roman mobs are going to be much of a problem. When it comes to like if you're dealing with a big fucking army, you don't need bullets. Bullets are really the last fucking thing, because it takes one for everyone out there. But there are other methods to clean house. More than one way to skin a cat. And from this emerged the laissez-faire separation of church-state, rule of law, and the sanctity of private property. In Rome, Byzantium, and in Russia, law was regarded as an enactment of a supreme power. That's 111 there. Let me see if I can highlight that. Here. By the way, it was okay. There we are. Found it. It was discovered that man can live without a state, and this became the basis of Western liberalism. I'm being lazy. I'm not. It was discovered that the state, if it exists, must serve men, and that is incorrect to believe that the purpose of men is to serve the state. It was discovered that economic life, religious life, law, and property can all exist and function effectively without a state. laissez-faire, church and state, rule of law, the sanctity of private property. That is a very good note. Or, it was discovered men could live without the state. That is a goddamn blasphemy today. You cannot state that. You can't say it. You can't think it. You sure as fuck can't communicate it to anybody else. That, but history shows that people have lived without the fucking state interfering, being a fucking cocksucker ruled by fucking criminals. That's a very big fucking claim right there, huh? Underlining. I don't want it green. What color we want that line? Let's do red for life. How about that? In Rome. Yeah, when in Rome. Law regarded as an enactment of supreme power. And in the West, when no supreme power existed, it was discovered that law still existed as a body of rules which govern social life. Thus, law was founded by an observation in the West, not enacted by an autocracy in the East. This meant that authority was established by law. Under the law of the West, while the authority was established by the power and above the law in the East. The West felt that the rules of economic life were found and not enacted. The individuals had rights independent of, and even opposite to, public authority. That groups could exist as a church existed by right and not by privilege, and without the need to have any charter of incorporation entitling them to exist or as a group or act as a group. Motherfucker, ain't that a fucking bitch? It's all they want today is a fucking charter, an incorporation, fucking document, a fee, a title, a license, a registration, an application. That groups or individuals could own property as a right, not as a privilege, and that such property could not be taken by force, and if it must be taken by established process of law. It was emphasized in the West that by the way a thing was done was more important than what was done, while in the East what was done was more significant than in the way which it was done. And that's the difference that you could have said. It was emphasized in the West that things were done in a lawful manner, and it was more important than the East enacted things in a legal manner, which may not be lawful, or just right off the top of my head, but there was also another basic distinction between Western civilization and Russian civilization. This was derived from the history of Christianity. This new faith came into classical civilization from the Semitic society. How about that? The history of Christianity.
in its origin. It was thus a worldly religion. Nice, believing that the world and the flesh were basically good, or at least filled with good potentialities, because both were made by God, and the body was made in the image of God, and God became man into this world with a human body to save men as individuals and establish peace on earth. The early Christians exemplified this worldly tradition, insisting that salvation was only possible only because God had lived and died within a human body in this world, that the individual could be saved only through God's help and grace by the living correctly in his body on earth, the good works, that there would be someday a millennium on this earth, and that the last judgment there would be a resurrection of the body and everlasting life, and this way the world of space and time which God had made at the beginning with the statement, it was good, book of Genesis, would at the end be restored to its original condition. This optimistic and this worldly religion was taken into classical civilization at the time when a philosophic outlook of that society was quite incompatible with religious outlook of Christianity. The classical outlook, we might call Neoplatonic, was derived from the teachings of Persian Zoroastrianism, the Pythagorean rationalism, and Platonism, isms, and the tons and shuns and whatever. Very, very unnecessary. Okay. It was dualistic, dividing the universe into opposed worlds. The world of matter and flesh and the world of spirit and ideas. The former world was changeable, unknowable, illusionary, and evil. The latter world was eternal, noble, real, and good. Truth for these people to be found by the use of reason and logic alone, not by the use of the body or the senses, since these were thrown there and must be burned. The body, as Plato said, was the tomb of the soul. And thus, the classical world in which Christianity came about in AD 60 believed that the world and the body were unreal, unknowable, and corrupt and hopeless, and that no truth or success shall be found by the use of the body, the senses, or matter. A small minority derived from Democrats and the early Ionian scientists through Aristotle. Emperors and who rejected the Platonic dualism, preferring materialism as an explanation of reality. These materialists were equally incompatible with the new Christian religion. Moreover, even the ordinary citizen of Rome had an outlook on whose implications were not compatible with the Christian religion. To give one simple example, while the Christians spoke of a millennium in the future, the average Roman continued to think of a golden age in the past, just as Homer had. As a consequence of the fact that the Christian religion came into society was incompatible with the philosophic outlook, the Christian religion was ravaged by the theological and dogmatic disputes that shot through otherworldly heresies. In general, these heresies felt that God was so perfect, so remote, and man was so imperfect, and such a worm that the gap between God and man could not be bridged by any man, and that the salvation depended on the grace rather than the good works. And that if God ever did lower himself as to occupy a human body, it was not an ordinary body, and that accordingly Christ could either be there the true God or a true man, but could not be both. This point of view was opposed by the Christian fathers of the church, but not always successfully, but in a decisive battle at the First Church Council held at Nicaea in 325. The Christian point of view was enacted into a formal dogma of the church, although the church continued to exist for centuries thereafter in a society whose philosophic outlook was ill adapted to the Christian religion and obtained to a compatible the basic outlook of Christianity reinforced the experience of the Dark Ages. To create the outlook of Western civilizations. Some elements of this outlook which were of great importance were the following: the importance of the individual. And says he alone to say the potential goodness of the material world and that of the body, the need to seek salvation by use of the body and the senses in this world, good works of faith and the reliability of the senses which contribute much to Western science, and faith and reality of ideas which contribute much to the Western mathematics, and mundane optimism and millennialism, which contribute to the faith in the future and the ideas of progress and the belief that God and not the devil reigns over the world, but a system of established rules, which contribute much to the ideas of natural law, natural science, and the rule of law. These ideas, which became part of the tradition of the West, did not become part of the tradition of Russia. The influence of Greek philosophic thought remains strong in the East and Latin West. Before go use the language that's supposed to be. I'm trying to look down, but oh goddamn it, I feel like I'm gonna spin and smack my fucking head. Let me be a little more careful here. That should be on the following page. To the soul, real law, 900, motherfucker, go. That's the date. For go. Use the language which was not at the time fitted for abstract discussion in almost all the dogmatic debates which arose from the incompatibility of the Greek philosophy, Christian religions, which were carried on in the Greek language and fed on the Greek philosophic tradition, and the West, the Latin language, reflected quite a different tradition based on the Roman emphasis on the administrative procedures and ethical ideas about human behavior to one's fellow man. As a result, the Greek philosophic tradition remained strong in the East and continued to permeate the Greek-speaking church, and went with that church into the Slavic north. This schism between the Latin Church and the Greek Church strengthened their different points of view, the former being more worldly, more concerned with human behavior, and continuing to believe in the efficiency of good works, while later was more the worldly and concerned with God's majesty and power, emphasized the evilness and weakness of the body and of the world, and the efficiency of God's grace. As a result, the religious outlook, and accordingly the world outlook of Islamic religion and philosophically, I'm going philosophically, I don't know why the fuck I keep struggling with this fucking word, but it's kind of getting on my fucking nerves now. It developed in quite a different direction than that from in the West. This body, this world, pain, personal comfort, and even death were of little importance. Man could do little to change his life, which was determined by the forces more powerful than he, resigned to fade pessimism and the belief in the overwhelming power of sin and the devil dominated the East. To this point, we have seen ourselves wandering into the Russian civilization as a result of several factors. Before we go on, we should perhaps recapitulate as well as we're subjected to the present Viking exploitive system. These Vikings copied the Byzantine culture. They did very gorgeously in their religion, their writers, state, their laws, their art, their architecture, philosophy, and literature. The rulers were outsiders who innovated all the political, religious, economic, and intellectual life in the new civilization. There was no state, foreign abroad, on the end. There was no organized religion. One was imported from the Byzantium and imposed on the Slav. The system economic was low level for subsistence economy with hunting and rudimentary agriculture. On the Vikings imposed an international trading system. There was no religious, philosophic outlook. This new state, church, superstructure imposed upon themselves an outlook derived from the Greek dualistic idealism, and finally these never experienced the Dark Ages to show that its society is distinct from the state and more functional than the state. this summary brings Russian society down to about 1200. In the next 600 years, new experiences merely intensified the Russian development. These experiences arose from the fact that the new Russian society found itself caught between the population pressures of the raiders from the steppes to the east, to the pressure of advancing technology of Western civilization, the pressure of the Ural speakers from the eastern steppes culminated in the Mongol Tatar invasions under 1200. The Mongols conquered Russia and established a new tribe-gathering system which continued for generations. Thus, there continued to be a foreign exploiting system imposed over some people in time. The Mongols made the princes of Moscow their chief tribute collectors for most of Russia. A little later, the Mongols made the court of highest approval of Moscow, so that money and judicial cases flowed to Moscow. These continued to flow even after the princes of Moscow in 1380 led to successful revolt which ejected the Mongols. The Mongols were coming. Shit. Yeah. A little more challenging than I thought, because I can't take notes, because then I'm just going to be sitting here. I don't know, maybe I can. But if I'm stuck like here, like writing and reading, then I'm not looking at the... I'm trying to figure out how to fucking do this, man. Fucking hell. And, I don't give a flying, flipping, flying, freaking fuck. You know, that's bullshit too, you know. Okay, I've got too much. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing here? I do have to use the restroom though, but I'm gonna be up much longer. I'm probably gonna make me some fucking coffee. But I do. Let's take a 5-10 minute break and we'll come back here. coffee is brewing. Coffee is brewing. Coffee is brewing. Finally settled down, didn't you? You settled down, didn't you? That's a good girl. Yeah, you chilling out. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna keep leaning over there and try to reach you, girl. I can't do it. We need ring of fire. I don't know. This is a doodad. Man, y'all knocked my pig down. Shit, pull my hair. I guess yeah, I figure this out. I'll turn this off. I can put this up. I'm really supposed to, I guess, meditate with it. But, I'll set up falling asleep. There's my pig. I'd say about 5-10 minutes. That should be done. Oh, I remember what that is now. Yeah, that was my idea. Doing the garbage. Cause, why not? I feel like I feel naked without the hat now. Jesus. Kind of like it. It's kind of a pain in the bitch to write with, though. Try to read, especially being up under the light. It blocks the light. Then I can't read because I can't see without. If it was like daylight here, I could see the spot, but darker it gets. Yeah, I can't see shit in the dark. Not anymore. Not anymore. I used to be able to see in the dark. It's like just a little bit of moonlight pop through out there. Full moon shit is like daylight. Most part, especially where it is. Thick brush, like you get out. Of course, ain't nobody seeing the fucking dark. Like you go on a fucking cave, you can't fucking see shit, but nobody can see nothing in there without light. But just to even have a little bit of backlight. Even at nighttime, it's not completely dark. Stars, moon do light up the sky, but I used to be able to see a fairly long distance in the dark. As the population pressure for the east decreased, the technological pressure from the west increased after 1500. By Western technology, we mean such things as gunpowder and arms. Firearms is a made-up word, dumbass. its arms, better agriculture, accounting, public finance, sanitation, printing, and the spread of education. And I can't keep that eye shut. It hurts. Because I can try to read the left eye. Yeah, that's my left. But it's not as clear as this one. This was clear, but it fucking hurts. It's straight and trying to make up the difference here. I'm not gonna read too long because I'll get a fucking headache. I keep trying to push myself. Yeah, I don't read as much as I used to. Not when they had to hurt, I was fucking out to push myself through that shit at first, and man, I just end up with some terrible fucking headaches and pains, and fucking like my neck would hurt, fucking everything. I'm like, slowly, surely, I'm like, all right, you can't read all that. Just quit. I had to kind of eventually like back myself down. Then I don't know, having all this information around me on the internet doesn't help, because I would much rather read it, or if I do watch it, I'm going to try to get the fucking subtitles on so I can read along as they talk. Where are we at? Accounting, public finance, sanitation, printing, and the spread of education. Russia did not get the full impact of these pressures until late, then from secondary sources such as Sweden and Poland, rather than from England or France. Did I look big? I thought that I put 20 minutes on there. How Russia was hammered out between the pressures from the east and those from the west. The resulting was the hammering of this hammering with Russia, autocracy, military tribute, gathering machines superimposed upon the southern population. The poverty of this population made it impossible for them to get arms or of any other advantages of Western technology. Only the state had these things. The state could afford them only by draining wealth from the people. It was draining wealth from the low upward provided arms and Western technology for the rulers that kept the rule too poor to obtain these things. Technology for the rulers that kept the rule too poor to obtain. Kept the rule too poor. Oh, yeah, duh. So the power was concentrated at the top. The continued pressure from the West made it impossible for these rulers to use the wealth that accumulated in their hands to finance economic improvements which might have raised the standards of living of the rulers. Since the accumulation had to be used to increase Russian power rather than Russian wealth, as a consequence, downward pressure increased, and the autocrats became more autocratic, and in order to get a bureaucracy for the army and for government service, the landlords were given personal powers over the peasants, creating a system of serfdom in the East, just at the time that the medieval serfdom was disappearing in the West. Private property, personal freedom, direct contract with the state for taxation or for justice were lost to the Russian serfs. The landlords were given these powers so that landlords would be free to fight and willing to fight for Moscow or to serve the Moscow ruling bunch of cocksuckers. That was yeah, alright, hold on. Let me make a note here. Yeah. Called descent into slavery. Right. By 1730, the direct pressure of the West upon Russia began to weaken somewhat because of the decline of Sweden, of Poland, and of Turkey, while Prussia was too occupied with Austria and with France to press very forcibly upon Russia. Thus the Slavs were using an adopted Western technology of rudimentary character were able to impose upon the supremacy of the peoples of the East. The peasants of Russia are seeking to escape from the pressures of serfdom in the area of the west of the Ural, began to flee eastward, eventually reached the Pacific. The Russian state made every effort to stop this movement because it felt that the peasants must remain to work the land and pay taxes. If the landlords were able to maintain the military democracy, it was considered necessary eventually to remain in democracy to follow the peasants eastward. The Russian society came to occupy the whole of northern Asia. What a lovely bunch of cocksuckers we have here. And, you know, it's, how many pages there really, though, is it? Russian 86, 105. I mean, okay, I don't know. I could read this like in pieces and parts. And shit's different. Chapter 1 and 2, like 1 and 2, or especially 2, is, I guess, because, you know, we are very reflation, inflation. That's 7, chapter 7, finance, commercial policy, and business activity, 1897 through 1947. So this is going to go back a little bit into the banking and everything, and probably go back over like the Federal Reserve, reparations 1919 to 1932, and this peace settlements, and that would Then after the First World War, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of information packed in these little chapters. International Socialism and the Soviet Challenge, Chapter 8. Crash, 1929. The Crisis, 1931. Crisis of Third Degree, World Economic Conference. They talk about the control of the money to gain control of the corporations and industry. It's like, these are essential to understanding where we are today. If you don't understand the history of money, I don't understand how the hell you could understand what's going on today. And Quigley, professor, University Grant Committee under Georgetown University, twice, some research, but I mean, he was at McMullen Company and Maxwell connection there. Free face. I don't know if he mentions any other, but I believe so. No, he doesn't mention any other colleges that he had maybe provided a lecture. The story. Just the story of this book is worth noting. He also has the evolution of civilizations. This is tragedy and hope, based here of the world of our time in the Anglo-American establishment. First published in 1966 by the McMullen Company in New York. Calling her Limited, London. Third printing, a commission of William Morrison. 74, 66, 74, 88. And a copyright was pending after 1998. I'd say there's a good fucking chance this is still taught in some of the schools. And I mean, he describes the fourth turning, the mechanics behind the destruction of classes, like the middle class, essentially outlining the stages of development. It shits all over the idea that we live in a capitalist world. Capitalism, what everybody screams, capitalism, 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 like gone a long time ago. I mean, it's a form of capitalism, I suppose, but as far as it's a technocratic, corporate technocratic type of system of worship people believe in today. Yeah, they worship the beast. The West made it impossible for accumulating lands. And that's an awfully big fucking statement. Dickhead. See, I think a lot of that cop out. No, you get too detailed, tying everything back to the cocksuckers. He was the chief architect of the liquidation of Britain's global preeminence. His position, see, because fucking AI, fucking, I'll tell you that the position held was not the commander-in-chief of the world banking system of control. No, it wasn't. Well, he held the fucking position for 20 years. 20 years in the governmentship. Almost 100 of them had served 2-year terms. It increased rarely in time of crisis to 3 or even 4 years. But Mr. Norman, he held the position for 24 years, 1920 to 1944, during which he became the chief architect of the liquidation of Britain's global preeminence. Liquidated that motherfucker. Well, Britain lost the country a long time ago. People just didn't know it because, well, they getting this book. They didn't teach us in high school. Nope. Sure not. He was a strange man, a very strange man. He had a mental outlook, which was strange. He was strange. Whose mental outlook was one successfully suppressed hysteria or paranoia. He had no use for governments. He had no use for governments and feared demonocracy. He feared demonocracy. Both of these seemed to him to be threats to private banking. Thus, all that was proper and precious in human life, strong-willed, tireless, and ruthless, he viewed his life as a kind of cloaked dagger struggle with the forces of unsound money. Cloak and dagger struggle with the forces of unsound money. which were in league with anarchy and communism, when he rebuilt the Bank of England. The Bank of England. He constructed it as a fortress, prepared to defend itself against any popular revolt. And within the sacred golden reserves hidden deep in the vaults below the level underground waters, which could be released to cover them by pressing a button on the governor's desk. Deep below, they protected the gold. He could release the waters and drown anybody that dared break into that vault. The pressing a button on the governor's desk. Now that for fucking history. You know like that, huh? Yeah, that's pretty fucking wild, huh? Oh my goddamn fucking hell. Fuck. Ah, come on, man. I'm sorry. Hold up. I'm gonna go get my coffee and then reposition and put my marker in there so I do not lose my place. Well, we're actually, hold up. Yeah, I'm sorry, we're reading on here. Yankee, Norman, shit, with an M-O-N. Yeah, T-A, I'll show you, I'll let this up right here so you can check it out yourself. Right here. I'll be right back. There, that's in there. Told you. Killed you. A cup over here. Oh man, yeah, a cup over here. Five. My fingers smell like ass, and they taste like my bum. Oh, Jesus Christ, what I have fluid on my ear or something. I think I just felt the fluid shift in my fucking head. Come on, motherfucker. Hey. Yeah. For much of his life, Norman rushed about the world by fast steamship, covered tens of thousands of miles each year, often traveling incognito, concealed by black slouch hat, long black coat, the name of Professor Skinner. There's embarkations and departations onto and all the vast and ocean liners of the day, sometimes through the freight hatch, were about as unobserved as the somewhat similar passage of Great Block in the same years were carried out in a similar Benjamin Strong force modification organization America the wealthiest creditor. It is the period of stabilization. Is that what we call it? I would call it the period of expansion instead of retraction. In fact, let me go ahead and scribble that note within my little bookie book. My bookie book. I was sitting at the floor beside me. Yeah, so we're gonna jump ship. We're jumping ship. And let's see. I think that there's not many pay here in that chapter. I don't want to go back too far. No, see. Yeah. Here we are. Retraction and inflation. That please, man, can you just make it where I'm not so fucking busy? That would be nice. Yes. Yeah, that's just before we have retraction, reflection and inflation, a period of stabilization, a period of deflation, and reflation and inflation, period of expansion. Part 7, business, commercial and business activity, 1897 through 1947. We have already seen the valiant efforts that were made in the period of 1919-1929 to build up the international political order, quite different from that which had existed in the 19th century on the basis of the old order of sovereignty, international law. Men attempted, without complete conviction of purpose, to build a new international order for the collective security. For these reasons, a real understanding of economic history of the 20th century Europe is imperative to understanding the events of the period. Such as understanding will require the study of history of finance, commerce, and the business activity of the industrial organization and that of agriculture. The first three of these will be considered in this chapter from the beginning of the 20th century to the establishment of the forwardist economy about 1947. This whole half century has been divided into 6 subsections as follows. Reflation 1897, 1914. It was shocking the fuck out of the public. You guys do that. You want out more money than you have. Then turn around and tell them, hey, the main thing on the money cover all that fucking paper you're holding. And they're like, let's spread the banks, get our money. And I'm like, ha 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 ha. We had nothing to do with that. Inflation, 1914 through 1925. Creation of the Federal Reserve Act allowed the Fed to move in and create more funny money as a period of expansion. Stabilization, 1922 through 1930. You have an overlapping period of inflation and stabilization with a slowdown of the economy. Deflation, 1927 through 1936, the rapid expansion, the rapid retraction of all the newly created money. Call that loan is due. You better pay that $15,000 up front right now, right fucking now. We're gonna repo every fucking thing you got. And 1933, 1939, reflation, pump it back up like a bicycle pump, you know. And 1939 through 1947, inflation. As I do, they pump it up, pump it up, yeah. So, when you hear Pam Bondi say, the stock market, I hope you understand. The stock market. She knows. Y'all are about to be starving. Y'all aren't going to give a fuck about nothing. You're like, fuck those children. I can't eat. Fuck their crimes. I can't eat. And, I have to say, though, I'm looking a little bit at, George Tonks. I used to kind of see a little, point what he's saying. He got a lot of photographs, I'll tell you. I'd like to know. I'm presuming a lot of these were public fucking posts at one time. Because most of the FBI fucking files appear to be his post. Like, and his photos there, the ones I found with him, like, incredible fucking claims. And that impressed me. A survivor that hit upon some truth that, well, the others ain't talking about. I ain't hear none of them talk about just accusing people what they probably felt rubbed them wrong or didn't pay them enough, like for the sex. I ain't pay me enough for the sex. That motherfucker, fuck him. I'm gonna fuck him up every good chance. That way I mean, you don't lock them out. They only work for the submits for fucking 5, 6, 20 fucking years, you know. Can't you just get away from all that money? That's just hard. With a big fuck. You know how it is. They're gonna do it without that money and go like, just struggle to get by like everybody else, or keep my mouth shut and keep it, you know, living life. Oh, fucking, it got now, you know, all retarded and shit. Oh. It's bad shit too, man. these periods have different dates in different countries, and thus overlap. If we look at wild periods include all important countries, but in spite of the difference of the dates, these periods occur in almost every country, and it's the same order. It should be pointed out that these periods were interrupted by haphazard secondary movements. The secondary movements, the G for the depression, the haphazard secondary movement, the present 1921 through 22, and the recession of 1937 through 1938, both periods of deflation and declining economic activity. It's the beast from Jekyll Island. Yeah, there remains supreme better question. Supreme better question. What page? I need to mark that. I'm gonna stick a what do you call it? Tab in here. You should mark that. And Britain, the center of world finance, world trade, the world's greatest commercial markets for Britain. Reestablishing the balance of international payments, the Industrial Revolution, supremacy of Britain, major countries forced to abandon the gold standard, the elimination of the gold standard. The foreign exchange market does not fluctuate on the gold standard. Wide fluctuations in foreign exchange market, international finance practice, foreign exchange market act as a regulator of international trade development. The monopoly capitalism, Morgan. Montagu Norman and J.P. Morgan dominate the financial world. Money power reigns supreme and unquestioned. 61. The money power remains supreme and unquestioned. The power of the investment makers over governments. What the power of investment makers over governments? The power to create money, the power to create law. Financial capitalists at their worst. Decline activity. Right. Like this. Probably 47. Please already see the 1947, the whole last century. Okay, it's the next page. So look for deflationary. Auto jump was everywhere. Prices been rising slowly. Okay. Prices. Alright, we'll get it out here. Damn it, that come out so much prettier. I had a proper fucking surface to write on. Big desk. It had me a desk that somebody fucking I could rely on to pick the son of a bitch up. Prices have been rising slowly from about 1897 because of the increased output of gold. From South Africa and Alaska. I'm sorry, I was just trying to understand that statement. Alleviating the depressed conditions from the agricultural distress which had prevailed to the benefit of the financial capitalists from 1873. Prices rising slowly because the value of the gold, the
increase of gold into the market. This, okay, yeah, I get you. The outbreak of the war in 1914 showed these financial capitalists at their worst. Narrow outlook, ignorant, selfish, while proclaiming, as usual, total devotion to social good. Oh my God, boys. They generally agreed that the war could not go on for more than 6 to 10 months because of the limited financial resources of the belligerents, which they meant the gold reserves. This idea reveals the fundamental misunderstanding of the nature and role of money on the part of the very persons who are reputed to be experts on the subject. Wars as events that prove sense are not fought with gold or even money, but by proper organization of real resources. The outbreak of the war. We have the outbreak of war, 1914. Yes. It showed what? The financial capitalists at their worst. Narrow outlook, ignorant, selfish, claiming the usual. The total devotion to the social good. Total devotion. This idea reveals the fundamental misunderstanding of the nature and role of money on the part of the very persons who are reputed to be experts on the subject. Wars, events that prove sense are not bought with gold or even money, but by proper organization of real resources. The international bankers devise a secret scheme to enrich themselves. The international bankers. Yes, nope, I wrote that wrong down. The attitude of bankers. Oh, that's where I got that. The attitude of bankers. The international bankers. The bankers. Scheme to enrich themselves. The attitudes of the bankers revealed most clearly by England were every move was directed by efforts to protect their own position. Every move was directed by efforts to protect their own position and profit from it, rather than by considerations of economic mobilization for war or for the welfare of the British people. The outbreak of the war on August 4th, 1914 found the British banking system insolvent. There we go. It was in the sense that its funds created by the banking system for profit rented out to the economic system to permit it to operate could not be covered by the existing volume of gold reserves or by collateral which could be liquidated rapidly. According to the bankers, secretly devised. Accordingly, the bankers secretly devised a scheme in which their obligations could be met by fiat money, so-called treasury notes. But as soon as that crisis was over, they then insisted the government must pay for the war without recourse to the fiat money, which was always damned by the bankers as immoral, but by taxation and by borrowing at high interest rates from the bankers. The decision to use treasury notes to fulfill the bankers' liability was made as early as Saturday, July 25th, 1914 by Sir John Bradbury, later Lord Bradbury. What a promotion there. It's Sir Frederick Atterbury at the latter's home. First treasury notes were run off the presses at Woe and Sons in the fall. Tuesday, July 28th, at the time when more politicians believed that Britain would stay out of the war. The usual bank holiday at the beginning of August was extended to 3 days, during which it was announced that the treasury notes instead of gold would be used for bank payments. The discount rate was raised at the Bank of England from 3 to 10%. 1. To prevent inflation. The figure taken merely because the traditional rule of the bank stated that a low percentage rate would draw gold out of the ground itself, and the gold payments need to be suspended only when a 10% rate failed. So that quite a fucking admission right there in the history book. We have the funds. This is the funds created by the banking system for profit and rented out to an economic system to permit it to operate. Could not be covered by the existing volume of gold reserves or by the collateral by which could be liquidated rapidly. The bankers secretly devised a scheme by which their obligations could be met by fiat money, so-called treasury notes, so-called treasury notes. But as soon as the crisis was over, they insisted that the government must pay for the war without recourse to fiat money, always damned by the bankers as immoral, but by taxation and borrowing at high interest rates from the banker. The decision to use treasury notes to fulfill the banker's liability was made as early as Saturday, July 25th, by Sir John Bradbury. Yeah. Sir Frederick Atterbury. Treasury notes were run off the presses at Waterloo and Sons. The usual banking holiday. The beginning of August, extended 3 days.
it was announced that the Treasury notes, instead of gold, would be used for payment. Discount rate was raised at the Bank of England 3 to 10%. Gold payments need only be suspended when the 10% rate failed. The government accept the secret plan of bankers without question, of course, no. Without any benefit to themselves, without any gain. Nobody made out like bandit. What the hell? That something in my damn eye. Water or bug or something that was very strange feeling. The government accept the secret plan of bankers. With, let's put that note here. Secret plan. There we go. At the outbreak of the war, most military countries suspended gold payments, and to varying degrees accepted bankers' advice that the proper way to pay for the war was by a combination of bank loans with taxation of consumption. The period within, according to experts, the war must cease because of the limited financial resources eventually passed, and fighting continued more vigorously than ever. Governments paid it off in various ways by taxation, fiat money borrowed from banks, which created credit for the purpose, and by borrowing from the people, they sell war bonds to them. Each of these methods of raising money from the people by selling war bonds. Each of these methods of raising money had a different effect upon the two chief political financial consequences of the war. These were inflation and public debt. The effects of the four ways of raising money upon these two can be seen from the following table. Taxation gives no inflation and no debt. Fiat money gives inflation and no debt. Bank credit gives inflation and debt. Sell bonds gives no inflation but gives debt. See, yeah, I can't. I'm not going to be able to, because I'm slow as oh fuck. I would like to keep up with the notes and stuff, and we go along here, but see, it would appear from this table that the best way to pay for war would be by taxation, and the worst way by bank credit. However, taxation sufficient to pay for a major war would have a severe deflationary effect upon prices, that the economic production would not increase enough or fast enough. Any rapid increase in production is spurred by a small amount of inflation, which provides the impetus of unusual profits to the economic system. Increased public debt, on the other hand, contributes little no value to the effort toward economic mobilization. I'm sorry, I wish I fucking stopped this rock and shit. I have no fucking control of it. From this point of view, it is not easy to say what method of financing war is best. Probably the best combination, another core method makes this way. They end there in a minimum of debt and no more inflation than necessary to obtain a complete rapid economic mobilization. This will probably involve a combination of fiat money taxation with considerable sale of bonds to individuals, the combination at varying at different stages in the mobilization effort. And was that war really necessary? No. It'd been nice. We went into the causes and who participated in actually the war here, but at the end of the war, the governments are in debt to the bankers. So, in essence, this might have been a game to cause inflation, to create as much debt as possible, but then you, I don't know, being just freshly passed, talking 4 years after the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, to inflate the economy to an extreme point too quickly might have caused some blowback from the peasants. Let's see. Yeah. We have at the end of the war, governments are in debt to the bankers. In the period 1914 through 1918, the various belligerents used a mixture of these four methods, but it was this mixture dictated by expediency and false theories. So at the end of the war, all the countries found themselves with both public debts and inflation in amounts in no wise justified by the degree of economic mobilization which had been achieved. The situation was made worse by the fact that all the countries' prices continued to rise, and in most countries the public debts continue to rise long after the armistice of 1918. The causes of wartime inflation were found to be in both financial and economic spheres. The financial sphere, the government was spending and immense amounts of money to the financial community to largely produce goods which would never be offered for sale. In the economic sphere, the situation was different in those countries which were more completely mobilized than those which were only partially mobilized, and the form of the real wealth was reduced. by the diversion of economic resources from making such wealth to making goods for destruction. In others, the total quantity of real wealth may not have been seriously reduced, since much of the resources utilized in making goods for destruction came from resources previously unused, like idle mines, idle factories, idle men, and so on. But the increase in the money supply, competing with a limited amount of real wealth, gave drastic rise in prices. We have next the financial lenders use deceptive methods. Oh. Fraud vitiates contract. And fraud vitiates contract. And that would allow us to get out from under fucking, remove the noose from our necks, get rid of the fucking central banks. Really? Is that what this war we find ourselves in? Is that what this is all about? To establish another central bank? Iran, Iraq, what countries did Wesley Clark name? 5 of them, right? Syria, all that great areas with real territory to kind of fits. You know, you got multiple objectives. Multiple aims to push the same fucking narrative. You said, wow, prices rose. Well, the prices in most countries rose 200 to 300%. And public debts rose 1,000%. Financial leaders tried to keep up the pretense that the money of each country was as valuable as it had ever been, and as soon as the war had ended, this situation as existed in 1914 would be restored. For this reason, they did not openly abandon the gold standard. Instead, they suspended certain attributes of the gold standard and emphasized on other attributes which they tried to maintain. In most countries, payments in gold and the export of gold was suspended, but every effort was made to keep up gold reserves up to a respectable percentage of note, and the exchanges were controlled to keep them as nearly as partially possible. These attributes were achieved in some cases by deceptive methods. In Britain, for example, the gold reserve against notes fell from 52% to 18% in the month of July-August 1914. Then the situation was concealed partly by moving the assets of local banks into the Bank of England and using them as reserves for both, partly by issuing a new kind of notes called currency notes, which had no real reserve and little gold backing. The United States, the percentage of reserves required by law in commercial banks was reduced in 1914, and new reserve requirements for both notes and deposits were cut in June of 1917. A new system of depository banks was set up which required no reserves against government deposits created in them in return for government bonds. Such efforts were made in all countries, but everywhere the ratio of the gold reserves and note fell drastically during the war. In France, from 60% to 11%, in Germany, 59% to 10%, in Russia, 98% to 2%, in Italy, 60% to 13%, in Britain, 53 to 32% there. So cunning, aren't they? They're so cunning. They're so small. So small. Uh-huh. We got situation concealed, partly by moving assets of local banks into the Bank of England and using them as reserve for both, and partly by issuing a new kind of note, the currency note, which had no real reserve and little gold backing. The financial leaders tried to keep up the pretense that the money of each country was as valuable as it had ever been, and that as soon as the war was over and the situation existing in 1914 would be restored. Inflation and public debts continued after the war. And it was the whole sale of the Federal Reserve Bank. You know, keep your Alderman Act, was it? He said, is to keep the currency strong to prevent these economic fucking crises. What was it, right? Inflation, yeah. And public debt increase after the war. Inflation and the increase in public debts, they continued after the war ended. The causes for this were very, very complicated and varied from country to country. In general, price fixing and rationing regulations were ended too soon before the output of peacetime goods had risen to a level high enough to absorb the accumulated
purchasing power into the hands of the consumers from their efforts in war production. Thus, the slowness of the reconversion from war production to peace production caused a short supply at a time of higher demand. The Allied exchanges, which had been controlled during the war, were unpegged. They unpegged it in March of 1919, and once fell to levels beyond the great price disequilibrium between countries. Purchasing power held back during the war suddenly came to the market, and there was expansion of bank credit because of post-war optimism. The budgets have remained out of balance because of reconstruction requirements, such as in France and Belgium, reparations, such as in Germany, demobilization expenses, as in the United States and Italy, and so on and so forth. And none of it fucking means anything, because right here they're feeding a bunch of fucking shit in the production of peacetime goods, which is probably by the revolutions, as in Hungary, Russia, and so on, or strikes, as in the United States, Italy, and France, and so on. Post-war inflation had evil results. Nothing these fuckers could have foreseen. We wouldn't have known. The fucking masters of banking, you know, the ones that make it appear like it's so complicated, it's so complicated, it's so complicated. Didn't understand they were going to make a fucking profit. No, at all. I mean, no, we did not have any idea that we were going to fucking create a fucking, you know, if we loan you $1 and expect 6 cents on that dollar, and you repay that dollar, where the fuck are you going to get that 6 cents from? Oh, yeah, you have to borrow another dollar. Here. Now. Interest rates. They would never know that it was a never-ending cycle of fuckery. No. Who could imagine? The post-war, we had post-war inflation. That unfortunately for the peasants, this post-war inflation could have accomplished much good by increasing the output of real wealth, was wasted by increasing the price of existing goods, and had evil results by destroying capital accumulations and savings and overturning economic class lines. This failure was caused by the fact that the inflation, though unwanted everywhere, was uncontrolled because few persons in position of power had the courage to take the steps necessary to curtail it. You may get rid of the Federal Reserve. In the defeated revolutionary countries, Russia, Poland, Hungary, Austria, and Germany, the inflation went so far that the former monetary units became valueless and ceased to exist. In a second group of countries like France, Belgium, and Italy, the value of the monetary unit was so reduced that it became a difficult thing, although the same name was used still. In a third group of countries, Britain, the United States, and Japan, the situation was kept under control. 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 The public debt and economic depression. America.
Yeah. And so, as far as Europe was concerned, the intensity of the inflation increase is one move geographically from west to east. For the three groups of countries above the second and moderate inflation group, the group was most important in a time of extreme inflation. The group inflation wiped out all public debt savings and all claims on low since the monetary unit changed its work with. And the moderate inflation group, the burden of public debt was reduced to private debts and savings were reduced by the same proportion in the United States and Britain. In an effort to fight inflation took the form of a deliberate movement toward deflation. This preserved savings but increased the burden of the public debt and gave economic depression. So hold the fuck out. In the moderate inflation group, the burden of the public debt reduced. Private debts, savings were reduced by the same proportion. We'll fucking wipe out somebody's savings. You gotta fight for the preserved savings. This preserved. Wait a minute, fuck you. You're fucking being fucking deceptive here. Because we're talking about the public debt was reduced and private debts and savings were reduced, and the reduced savings, this preserved the reduced savings but increased the burden of the public debt. Does that make any fucking sense? I don't fucking hold up. In the moderate inflation group, the burden of the public debt reduced, okay? There's not so much public debt. It's been reduced. And the private debts and the savings were all reduced by the same proportion. Okay. Oh, in the United States, in the United States and Britain, the effort to fight inflation took the form of a deliberate movement toward deflation. This preserved savings but increased the burden of public debt and gave the economic depression. Deflation. Depression. How's the fucking inflation caused depression? Inflation. Because they recalled the fucking debt. That's what they're trying to say. The recalling of the fucking debt. The recall of loans. When did you just say they shorted the fucking loans and shorted the money supply and demanded those loans be repaid like immediately? Like, just fucking call the fucking turd a turd quickly. Must have been terrific. And wonder, quickly have access. They give him access to Epstein. They have that. Epstein wasn't. You know they were merchant makers in Vienna, right? Yeah. Epstein come from family of bankers. I learned this through the Epstein file in the email. Yeah. There's a email between Ariana Rothschild and Epstein. Talk about history book at Harvard and Hitler, how their families, the Epsteins, the Rothschild, and the Gutmans funded Hitler so they could, fight the war. These change. No, we're up here. Alright. The period of stabilization. As soon as a war was finished, governments, they began to turn their attention to the problem of restoring the pre-war financial system. And since the essential element in the system was believed to go stand up with its stable exchanges, movement was called stabilization because of their eagerness to restore the pre-war financial situation. The experts closed their eyes to the tremendous changes which had resulted from the war. The experts they closed their eyes and said, I can't see, I can't see, I can't see, it's not happening, it's not happening. These changes were so great in production, in commerce, and in financial habits that any effort to restore pre-war conditions or stabilize on the gold standard was impossible and inadvisable. Instead of seeking a financial system adapted to the new economic and commercial world which had emerged from the war, the experts tried to ignore this world and establish a financial system which looked superficially much like the pre-war system as possible. This system, however, was not the pre-war system, and neither was it adapted to the new economic conditions. When experts began to have vague glimmerings of this last fact, they did not modify their goals, but insisted on the same goals in voice, incantations, and extortion, and the existing conditions which made the attainment of their goals impossible. These changed economic conditions could not be controlled or exercised by incantations. They were basically not results of the war at all, but normal outcomes of economic development of the world in the 19th century. All that the war had done was to speed up the rate of this development. The economic changes which in 1925 made it difficult to restore the financial system of 19 were already discernible in 1890, clearly evident by 1910. (1922 through 1930). Yeah, it's funny, they don't tell about the cocksuckers' parts and buying their newspapers or, hijacking the educational system. None of that was worth noting. We do have record. We don't need Quigley's work. We have other fucking researchers who have done a wonderful job of fucking detailing the fucking criminal activity of the cocksuckers. We have Louis McFadden's investigation. We have Norman Dodd and the Grease Committee. We have Charlotte Isbert and there's deliberate dumbing down of America. Edward G. Griffin. We have a lot of researchers out there we could name. William Guy Carr. Let's see, what was that? Pops. The father's book. And I can't even recall the title now. It was a simple little title. And easy to read little book. Oh no! Britons. We've retained. Is it supremacy as a financial center? As a citizen of the shit world. Thread. Let's see what Quigley has to say about the chief item in the charge of the changes was the decline of Britain, which had happened because was that the Industrial Revolution was spreading beyond Britain to Europe and the United States, but 1910 South America and Asia. And as a result, these areas became less dependent on Britain for manufactured goods, less eager to sell their goods for raw materials, produce products for, and became our competitors to selling to and buying from those colonial areas in which industrialism had not yet spread. By 1914, Britain's supremacy as a financial center and a commercial market as a creditor, as a merchant shipper was being threatened, and a less obvious threat arose from long ships that demand ships from the products of heavy industry and the products of more highly specialized branches of production like chemicals from cereals and fruits and dairies and products from cotton and wool and silk and rayon and leather, rubber, and so on. These changes presented Britain with a fundamental choice: either rebuild or support the update in the world or reform our industrial and commercial system to cope with the new conditions. The latter was difficult because Britain had allowed her industrial system to become lopsided under the influence of free trade and international division of labor. Over half the employed persons in Britain were engaged in the manufacture of textiles and gas metals, textiles, accounted for 1/3 of our exports of textiles among the iron and steel. For over one half. At the same time, new industrial nations, Germany and the United States and Japan, were growing rapidly with an industrial system that are adapted to the trend of the times, and these were also cutting deeply into Britain's supremacy and began shipping. I just want to support a little bit section there. Returns, where was that at? This critical state. Oh, let's paragraph of it. Britain's financial supremacy as a commercial market, the creditor and merchant shipper was being threatened. Alright. America becomes the world's greatest creditor. Alright. You did it in here. America goes the world's greatest creditor. Alright. That's it. At this critical stage in Britain's development, the world could. This had a double result as far as the subject was concerned. It forced Britain to postpone indefinitely any reform in our industrial system adjusted to more modern trends. It speeded it up, the development of these trends, so that what might have occurred in 20 years was instead done in 5. In the period of 1910 through 1920, Britain's merchant fleet fell by 6% in the number of vessels, while that of the United States was up 57%, and that of Japan was up 130%, and that of the Netherlands was up 58%. The position as the world's greatest creditor was lost to the United States. A large quantity of foreign credits was replaced by a smaller amount of poor risk. In addition, she became a debtor to the United States in the amount of over $4 billion. The change in position of the two countries can be summarized briefly. The war changed the position of the United States in respect to the rest of the world, from that of a debtor owing about $3 billion to that of a creditor owed $4 billion. This does not include the intergovernmental contracts and debts of about $10 billion owed to the United States as a result of the war. At the same time, Britain's position had changed from a creditor owed about $18 billion to a creditor owed about $13.5 billion. In addition, Britain was owed about 8 billion in war debts from our allies in an unknown sum of reparations from Germany, and owed the United States war debts of over 54 billion. Most of the war debts and reparations were shortly reduced after 1920, but the result for Britain was a drastic change in her position in respect to the United States. Symbolically, because it's the United States, not a colony in Britain. Sure, they played out the Revolutionary War and enacted as they had declared their independence and freedom, but we examined the record. Is that what we would find? We would not have to look and record and find that America, the newly free country, was actually under the protection of some cause the sea would be surely not modification basic economic organization of the world. You have Mark here. The basic organization. Economic organization of the world. Alright. Yeah, alright. The basic economic organization of the world was modified in other ways. As a result of war, the old organization of relatively free commerce among countries specializing in different types of production was faced by a situation in which a larger number of countries sought economic self-sufficiency by placing restrictions on commerce. In addition, productive capacity in both agriculture and industry had been increased by an artificial demand of the war for the period degree far beyond the ability of most normal domestic demand to buy the products of that capacity. Finally, the more backward areas of Europe and the world had been industrialized to a great degree were unwilling to fall back to a position in which they would obtain industrial products from Britain, Germany, or the United States in return for their raw materials of food. This refusal made people for both sides have flagged that these backward area had increased their output of raw material and food so greatly that it took hard respect in the soil they've been weak, but on the industrial product from the pre-war sources. The people sources in turn had increased their industrial capacity so great that product could hardly have been sold if they had been able to recapture entirely all the pre-war market. To result a situation where all countries were equal to sell and reluctant to buy and sought to achieve these mutual conceivable ends was set up the subsidies and money on export and tariff restriction on import for disastrous resort on world trade. The only sensible solution to the problem was excessive productive capacity would have been substantial rise in domestic standard of living. But we cannot have increased of standard of living. But this will require fundamental reapportionment of national income so that claim to product of the excess capacity would go to masses income to consume rather than to go to a minority deserving to sell. Such reform was rejected by ruling groups in both advanced and backward countries. So soon solution was reached only to a relatively small degree in relatively few countries, chiefly United States, Germany, in period 1925-1929. The international budget begins to set aside, go aside. It set aside, say, I go, now you go, this you go into bag, and we drown, we put it in safe on the ground step. You peasant, try steal, you go, we drown you with your button. We say, flood champ. Yeah, they not be brutal. They say, we wash up, lose half floor, we lose up floor in secret, we wash up ourselves, we wash up the penis, they wash up penis, they say, why we love the penis so much, we're gonna make a big penis and put it in the middle of the capital all over the world. Look at the big penis and my penis and get up there and put it leg up there and say, take a picture of my penis. And they're like, look how big his penis is, he's the greatest. Oh, yes. See, don't turn off up there. He had a monument. He had the most monument. And he said, look at my penis. I'm so great. I make everything. This is the way they do. See my giant penis. My giant penis. Little penis. Osiris penis. We have Osiris penis right here. I have a little penis. Very small shit. I can't do it. My tiny Osiris penis. Right here. And they go, wow, and they run this way and that way, and they stick it in there, and like, oh yeah, just put in this one too. And like, yeah, it's fun, can't wait. Hey, stop, camera rolling. No, behave. Put mask on. We are very upright and not doing anything here. You behave. You are all fucking misbehaving and talking shit that not fuck happen here under this roof. This roof never see nothing. But the fucking money away, you dumb fucker. And nothing going on here. Swear. Both hand on Bible. We have no Bible to swear upon. So we just pretend this Bible here. And we swear we not do nothing. All good. Go back to sleep. We'll now play your favorite TV show, basketball. It's time for the basketball. Get the fucking basketball on. Alright, see, now we're good. He's like, firefly, attracting the light. See, ball, as we say. Look, ball. Look, orange ball. Go get. Now, out of here. Orange ball. Go get the orange ball. See what the changes, and basically there come out some another word. It made it more difficult to adjust by other layers, tangible changes in financial practices and business psychology. Thus, particular post-war inflations in Eastern Europe had intensified the traditional fear of inflation among bankers, and an average stock prices from rising, which may become inflationary. The banker after 1919 increasingly sought to sterilize gold when they flowed into the country. That is, they sought to set aside so it did not become part of new monetary system. As a result, the unbalanced trade will have initiated a flow of gold will not concentrate, will not counteracted by price change. Trade prices remain unbalanced and gold continue to flow somewhat similar to my spread. Fear, you scare you out. A decreasing gold reserve, so that when gold began to flow out of country as a result of unfavorable balance in international payments,
bankers increasingly sought to hinder the flow of minor restrictions on gold exports, which some actions of the favorable balance of trade continue, and other countries were inspired to take a retaliatory action. The situation was disturbed by political fears, by the military ambitions of certain countries, since these frequently resulted in a desire for self-sufficiency. Not self-sufficiency, such as could be attained by the use of tariffs, subsidiaries, borders, trade controls, somewhat related to the was this widespread increase of feelings of economic, political, and social insecurity, which gave rise to the flights of capital, that is, to panic transfers of holdings seeking to secure but spot regardless of the economic return. Moreover, the situation was disturbed by the arrival in the foreign exchange market from a very large number of relatively speculator. The inner speculator in the period before 1914 speculator and foreign exchange had been a small group of men whose activity was based on long experience with the market and had stabilized effect on it. After 1919, one number of persons with neither knowledge nor experience began to speculate on foreign market, subject to influence or rumor, hearsay, and mob panic in their activities. Their still effect on market. The banker controlled a newspaper had no influence or control over a stupid population who they meant stupid by saying, we make you stupid in our school, we take away what we do. We don't understand that fiat money, good money, you spread around, stick fiat money in your ass. See, we pay you for free. You work for free. You're not a slave though. You're free, they're free. Now, wave your flag, yes, come on. The camera is not gonna fucking pet you, Mimi. Me. Cut it out, man. Finally, within each country, they decline in competition or other growth of future union, labor union, cartel, monopoly, and so on. Make price less responsible to flow of gold exchange on international market or the world. Such flow did not set into motion those forces which would equalize prices between countries, cartel gold, and balance of flows of goods. Yeah, stop or I will spray you. If you quit, you won't. They say most countries leave gold standard. Yeah. That was just by it was by mistake, by happenstance. All countries leave gold standard. Say fuck it, take our money and run. They say most countries leave gold standard. Yeah, right here. There we go. Get that deer. Put that deer. Get that deer. Hey. Here, come here. Here. Stuff your face. Here. Come here. Stuff your face. Yes. Stuff your face. There. Be good kid. Stuff your face. Stuff it. Stuff it fast. Here. Here. Let me drink all your water. Here, stuff your face. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Eat your fucking cake. stuff your fucking face. Motherfucker, you can stuff your fucking face. Yeah. As a result of all of these factors, the system of international payments would have was so beautiful before 1914. Just what the fuck after the banker want to stick their dick in the economy and say, look what we did, we fix it. Here you are, that's the economy. Expand, retract. The cheap car factor was neither good nor money or bad, period. Economic forces did not move. It's formally in the areas which was considered most valuable. The chief result was a complete maldistribution of gold. The condition which became acute after 1928, in which by 1933 had forced most countries off the gold standard. Make you wonder, did quickly forget that make us say control money, we make our rules, or they quickly like write this section first, then go back and write the other. I don't know. Oh, demonic power, seek control. Seek control, create what system? Financial control, private hand. It will dominate country, every nation on earth. What? Earth. Earth grand. It's Earthland. Upland. My power, seek control, seek create. Yeah, that's what they do, seek control. In addition to private goals, the powers of financial capitalism have far-reaching aim, none less than create a system, a wealth system of financial control and private hands able to dominate the political system of each country and economy of the world as a whole. The system was to be controlled in a feudalist fashion by the central banks of the world acting in concert by secret agreement arrived in frequent private meetings and conferences at JJ Vacation Island. Well, this is one, man. Don't think any people are just gonna go one place and get boring. Like, fuck JJ. Fuck JEA Vacation. We're gonna go on Trump vacation. Oh. They said, Jared Kushner have vacation now. Yeah, make a good vacation spot. Nobody know island. Just discover. Yeah, safe. Don't worry. We are allied with Israel now, so we make drone and submarine and we shoot anybody, sink them as they try to come to the island. We will openly fire on them, pow, and we'll bring them out and barbecue them on the beach, you know. We're moving past the age of disclose. We will disclose everything we do when we have under control. The robots will make them obey. Here, except for currency, you're gonna. You know, a universal basic income. Please take our universal basic income. Here, have it. We want you to have our universal basic income for good. If you agree, real good purpose. You take care of yourself, your family now. Good boy. Yes, you go spend that money now. Go spend the money. And then do this thing. You can't fight that motherfucker. You're no better. Oh, the bad boy. Take your money in my account, fuck him. Yeah, take your money out of his fucking account. Not your money, our money. Save money. Where's my fucking Yeah. There it is. No, don't hit the floor. Oh God, I'm not getting no. Yeah, I debated. I did debate. Like, do I read this myself? How would I read it? And do I do like the text to speech, or and let the Puda read it? Let the Puda read the thing. Do I read it? Yeah, I don't know. I could, like, you know, yeah, I mean, I could go back and, like, edit, redo anything I mess up, and, like, make it look like I'm some kind of fucking professional, don't ever make any fucking mistakes. But, yeah, that's not who I am, so, there would be no edits. It just, it is what it is. And maybe I'll learn to edit. Someday. I don't know, but as of right now, I'm not really concerned with the edit. You know, I'm not. This is something I would normally do anyways. Is read and study this shit. Normally I wouldn't read it aloud. Normally, you know, easier on the vocals to. Well, I mean, sometimes I guess I do read it loud. Just thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, I do catch myself reading aloud quite often, but I guess a lot of it's got to do with how I fucking feel and how well I can see, because that fucking varies, it seems. Sometimes, like, you know, vision, I can pretty widely throughout the day sometimes. Like even in daylight, you know, when I can see the best, I still might have moments where I see a bunch of spots, and, like, I really couldn't see dick all. As far as yeah. How I read this, and not necessarily that I'm trying to make entertainment, just try to entertain myself. So, you know, if somebody takes issue with how I read or how I sound, I don't work for you. So, you file a complaint in the complaint department. No. Yeah, the apex of the system is
It was. Well, it goes there because I think they shifted everything Hong Kong now out of London. But the apex was to be the Bank for International Settlements, Zero Switzerland, private bank, private bank, private bank, private bank, owned and controlled by the world's central banks. The world's central banks, which themselves, are themselves private corporations. The central banks, the world central banks, private corporations. Each central bank in the hands of men like Montagu Norman of the Bank of England, Benjamin Strong of New York, Reserve Bank, Charles Rist, Bank of France. That's Hydromas Schmidt of the Reichstag sought to dominate each government by its ability to control treasury loans, treasury bills. Remember talking about treasury bills not too long ago? To manipulate foreign exchanges, influence the level of economic activity in the country, and to influence cooperative politicians by subsequent economic rewards in the business world. Economic rewards in the business world. Tit for tat, rub my back. It's a favor for favor, quid quo pro kind of system. And it dates back much older than people realize. A lot of people are kind of, they either they're retarded or they know this and they're not fucking saying it. What's it? There. Oh God. And I think I would have wrote that on this fucking thing by now, but see the money power. Yeah. They created a world system of financial control. Private hands. Please put world domination. World domination is what that is, isn't it? Dominate every nation or world domination. World. Yeah. Well, here, the central banks themselves not where are private. Corporations and they're given equal rights as
is with the field private corporation. They'll never die. They never will die. They pass the assets to the family untouched. That is a system of governance we have in the world today. In each country, right there. The international bankers make agreements. All major financial of the world. Bank, international settlements, it became the mechanism for allowing three financial centers of the world back. Does anybody know what three those are? What? Well, you're about to find out if you don't know. The Bank of International Settlements, generally regarded as the apex predator of the financial structure of capitalism, whose remote origins go back to the creation of the Bank of England in 1864 and the Bank of France in 1803. As a matter of fact, its establishment in 1929 was rather an indication that the centralized world financial system of 1914 had done its job. It was set up rather to remedy the decline of London, by liquidating all the assets as the world's financial center, providing a mechanism, debt, by which a world with three chief financial centers, London, New York, and Paris, could still operate as one The Bank of International Settlements was a vein, a gold vein. It was a gold vein in an effort to cope with the problems arising from the growth of the number of centers. It was intended to be a world cartel of ever-growing financial powers assembled by the anomalies of these national financial centers. A cartel, if you will. A cartel. There. And that's what he uses there. There. A world cartel. See, I try not to highlight everything, but there we go. Here. Montagu Norman was the commander-in-chief of the world system of the banking control. I was about to write feast. All right. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't. That hurts. Oh, commander-in-chief, the commander-in-chief of the world banking table of banking control. Well, Montagu Norman, the gunner of the Bank of England, were built up by the private bankers in a position that is regarded as oracle all matters in government business. In government power, Bank of England was a considerable restriction on the political action as early as 1819. In government. That's what it said. In government, the power of Bank of England was a considerable restriction on political action as early as 1819. But an effort was made to break that power by a modification of the bank's charter in 1844 failed. No, come on. Oh, yeah, that's my bookmark. And this is the whole point here. The hinge, the whole situation. That the government itself was not to be a
substantive power in the matters of finance, but was to leave money power supreme and unquestioned, supreme and unquestioned, supreme and unquestioned, and that, yeah, is the moral of the story.
Alright, 3 fucking hours on this. I think I'm gonna leave it here. Yep, I'm gonna leave it here.